E-commerce forum.
Okay.
The e-commerce
under
forum.
the Virtual Business Summit.
Yes.
And what are they discussing?
Well, we are discussing how you can set yourself up to succeed in e-commerce, because that's the world we live in now.
Okay.
So knowing how to reach your target market or your customers, and knowing how to increase your sales to drive your business through these times.
So, for example, as I sit here, today is my wife's birthday.
Yes.
I want to send her a cake, but I'm here. Now, in 10 years ago, I'd have to take a truck to cake something, go and buy the cake, carry it, as you see, I will quickly it on my head and go and give it to her. I can sit here, send mobile something to somebody, and the person will put the cake in something.
Yes.
She will open the door, cake
Yes.
Now me 10 points.
In fact, you are even simplifying the thing too much. But let me add a bit more. You know, when we talk about e-commerce, people think about people buying and selling, and even if you offer a service, there are opportunities. Even churches. Yesterday I was saying state agencies.
Yes.
There are tools for you to use to make your services easier for people to get, and for you to also increase revenue.
Fantastic.
And cut down on your operational costs.
Amazing.
So all those are opportunities for everybody. If you do any business that interacts with people, that seeks to earn profits, this is the time for you to think about e-commerce.
So the Citi Business Festival is on. This morning we have an on-air program at 10 minutes past 9, and then on TV is at 11 o'clock. Make a date. If you want to join the Zoom conversation, call 0205-973-973. Now, quickly, if you are below 15 years, there's something special happening. I'll tell you about that shortly. But let's just go into the headlines quickly. Of course, the big story in Accra is that parts of the capital have been flooded, and we have been reporting that since 5 a.m. with Mauli Chikata, the radio pastor, reporting. In fact, let me just remind you of what's been happening before we get into the newspapers.
I'm speaking from Kingsby Junction around Lincoln Hotel. For those who know Achimota very well, it's just behind the Achimota Melcom. And the situation here is very bizarre. We all know the rainfalls that started around 11 p.m. last night. We were sleeping. I particularly was sleeping. And around 2 a.m., I heard people in my house shouting that everybody should come out and that the whole house has been taken over by water. And my brother, it wasn't easy. I was trapped inside my room, tried opening my door, it couldn't open. I had to break the louvers and come through the louvers, and my brother, it was so sad. At some point I felt that I was losing my life. And this is a particular problem we have here. And we have tried, this is not the first time the place is flooding. We've had issues of flood a couple of times, but this is the worst we have experienced. And in the past, when we have experienced this flooding, we have brought experts, we have brought contractors to come and take a look at the situation to try and resolve it. And for all those who come around, the reports we have is that it is difficult because there's a particular hotel here, Lincoln Hotel, where they say the contractor who built that building actually diverted the waterway. He actually diverted the waterway. So it has made the waterway very small. And when it rains heavy here, there's a lot of pressure and the water finds its way into people's houses. And the situation here is very bizarre.
Okay, so that was a caller into the This Is Your Day segment. Mauli Chikata doing that. Let's go into the radio, the newspaper headlines, and then we'll give you other stories. Later on, my production team will also bring more angles to this. Kojo, what do you have for me?
Yes, we have about 6 papers in the studio. The others are not in yet.
They've been affected by the rains.
Yes. And we have the Daily Graphic. Government to train 26,000 entrepreneurs. 50 million Ghana cedis earmarked for the program. NPP parliamentary primaries, 374 battle for 101 slots.
Wow.
65 go unopposed, 3 on hold. Venture capital scandal. Court rejects Duku's move to pay 15 million Ghana cedis.
The statesman has a couple of stories. No room for indiscipline. NPP orders suspension of dissidents. Outlines primaries modalities. Also, EC must remove 7 million names without new register. This is Let My Vote Count Alliance. And Caroline Sampson to host 10 to 1 Asasi Radio's late morning show.
Now, if you go to the Daily Guide, venture capital, 42 million Ghana cedi loot, court bounces agreement, nationwide military facilities disinfection begins, NPP clamps down on cases, and mayhem at killer landlord trial.
The Inquisitor has a couple of stories. Checking government. NDC launches corruption tracker, revisits bust gate. Also, Mohammed's infrastructure record, Kwachu Fosu strikes Nana Naked. And government to fund 500,000 entrepreneurs in Window 3 of Presidential Business Support Program. There's also another one here. MPP delegates return aspirants' money over Antwa oath.
Now, the BNFT has the Presidential Business Support Program story. It's aiming to train 26,000 startups. It's on the front page of the BNFT.
Okay.
Exposed, banks caught in major violations, changes made to loan agreements without notice, borrowers not provided pre-agreement contracts, exposing customer details to third parties, and unfriendly environment for physically challenged. All these are pointers in that particular story. COVID-19, collectively, we can stem the tide. Deputy Defense Minister Zoomlion disinfects barracks and schools and plans to curtail MTN's dominance bad for investment. Some George urges operator to petition. Now there's a feature. Our scientists and engineers need their 1% of GDP committed in 2018 for R&D funding.
The Daybreak has a few interesting ones. Confusion rocks fire service over missing provident funds. NLA VAC grants licenses to private lotto operators. And Minister commends Zoomlion for using WHO standards in disinfection exercise. Now, let me take you online for some of the stories. CitiNewsroom.com. No shred of truth in NDC's allegations against Bust, according to Nana Damoa. Also, COVID-19 cases in Ghana now 9,910. Meanwhile, we have a full list of 51 women contesting MPP primaries, and EC presents legal basis for rejecting old voters' ID to Supreme Court. If you go to citybusinessnews.com, virtual business forum on e-commerce comes off today. Also, breaking MTN's dominance, industry watchers caution government to tread cautiously. And this story is everywhere. 5,000 businesses, startups will receive 50 million cedi support from government. This is from a while. And then order Ghana Water Company to stop billing us. Hotels beg government for free water. If you go to myjournalline.com, existing voter ID card is a fruit of a poison tree. This is EC filing their legal argument. Also, government eroding NDC's gains in oil and gas, according to Emmanuel Amakofi Bua. And Shras throws out vote buying and corruption allegations against Mahama. Now, if you go to Star FM, COVID-19 case deaths in Ghana now 48, as cases near 10K. Samuel George raises concern over NCA Chair Sechado as radio host. And voter regiment threatens suit over false COVID-19 diagnosis. Okay, so today we'll stay mostly home because globally it's more issues on lockdown easing. For example, Moscow eases lockdown despite infection rate. Coach, so let's start with
I want to start with the center spread of the graphic. Move away from flood prone areas. NADMO advises residents.
This was yesterday.
Yes.
Wow, as if they knew.
Yes. And Juliet Echa Safo writes for the Daily Graphic that the National Disaster Management Organization has advised people living in flood-prone areas to relocate to safer places to protect lives and properties with the onset of the rains. In an interview with the Daily Graphic in Accra, the Deputy Director General of NADMO in charge of technical, Mr. Seji Saji, said during the rainy season, it was always advisable for people living in low-lying areas and on water courses to relocate to safety. He, however, said the dredging of storm drains and the desilting of gutters were ongoing, adding that NADMO officials were also on the ground assisting victims of floods. Mr. Saji said as part of measures to reduce the impact of floods, the organization has started public education on rains, which had been forecast to be much higher this year. The sensitization exercise was being conducted by disaster management committees whose duty was to develop disaster management and implementation plans for districts, he said.
So he said this yesterday, not knowing that this morning his advice would be very, very important. Now, Ghana's COVID-19 case count now 9,910. This is citynewsroom.com. Now, Ghana has confirmed 272 new cases of COVID-19, increasing the count to almost 10,000. This according to the Ghana Health Service update on the situation on June 8. The update also indicated that 4 new deaths had been recorded, with 9 more recoveries, raising the count to 3,645. That's the recoveries. Now, we've done 235,443 tests from March to date. Meanwhile, 4 people are currently on critical condition, with 20 in severe condition. And regional breakdown: Greater Accra 6,436, Ashanti 1,734, Western 769, Central 489, Eastern 166, Volta 102, Northern 74, The rest are the same as it's been in previous times. Could you? So
Now,
that's COVID-19.
let me give you a COVID-related story. Nationwide military facilities disinfection begins.
Okay.
Issa Mohammed writes for the Daily Guide that the Ministry of Defense has partnered Zoomlion Waste Management Company to disinfect all military facilities across the country with the aim of enhancing the safety of soldiers to act as frontline workers in enforcing safety protocols. This morning, I saw some soldiers acting as frontline workers in some of the flood dead
yes,
areas.
and yesterday they
Yeah.
made that point on the news. Now, let me tell you about MTN. They said they respect NCA's purview to regulate telco sector. So this is their initial response.
Yeah.
I'm guessing more response will come. Now, MTN Ghana says it has not received any formal notification from the National Communication Authority on measures to check its dominance in the telecommunications sector. The company made the statement after the government directed the NCA to implement new policies within the telco industry and address glaring disparities in market share. According to MTN, they however respect the position taken by the NCA to regulate the sector. A statement issued by MTN said, quote, Scancom PLC Ghana has noted media reports concerning a decision by the NCA to implement specific policies to ensure a level playing field for all network operators within the telco industry. MTN Ghana respects the NCA's purview to regulate the telco sector in Ghana based on legislation and best practice. However, MTN Ghana has not received a formal notification from the regulator and now waits this to assess the details. Until then, MTN will refrain from making any public statement or comment on the matter. Meanwhile, there's a story in the BNFT.
Yes, Sam George says plans to curtail MTN dominance bad for investment. Osei Owusu Amankwa writes that a member of Parliament's Committee on Communications, George Samuel Nate, has described as unfortunate the decision by the Ministry of Communications to direct the National Communication Authority to enforce the provisions of the Electronic Communications Act 2008 and the National Telecommunications Policy to address MTN's dominance in the market and revenue share of the sector.
Okay.
Now, after the directive, the NCA issued a statement saying the NCA, in the exercise of its mandate under section, it goes on and on and on and on, declares its intention to classify MTN as a dominant or significant market power. This means that the measure would be rolled out soon to correct the dominance of MTN and ensure some balance of market and revenue share among all players in the sector.
Okay.
But according to the Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram, the policy decision has sent a bad signal to investors who may be interested in the economy because of the free market regulations of the state. He believes the action amounts to the use of regulatory bodies to curtail the benefits of investing. He therefore advised MTN to petition the Parliamentary Committee on Communication for redress if the company feels the move is not fair.
Let's go to the EC now, and on this story we'll probably give you some details later during the show. Now, new register, EC presents legal basis for rejecting old voters register to the Supreme Court. This is CitiNewsroom.com. Jonas Nyabo. It's a big story. Now, the Electoral Commission has filed a document in court to explain why it is excluding the use of the old voters ID from the list of identification documents for the new voters register. Now, in a 31-page document presented to the Supreme Court, the Electoral Commission, among other things, argued that it, as an independent body and has the constitutional responsibility of determining how any registration exercise will be conducted. It further said that it had duly presented before Parliament the constitutional instrument on the compilation of the new register, which does not include the use of the old voter ID. The EC has the sole exclusive constitutional responsibility to compile a voters register and to determine how that compilation will be affected, and is not subject to the direction or control of any other person. Now, I like the way other people captured the story. So, for example, my Joy Online's version, they say EC say that the existing voter ID is the voter ID card is the fruit of a poison tree. So that's the angle they took. The EC in its legal argument described the card as the fruit of a poison tree. According to election body, a new process excluding the card will afford it an opportunity to break from the past and remedy all the carried on illegalities and ineligibilities.
Okay, let's stay with elections and related matters. NPP clamps down on cases. Page 3 of the Daily Guide. Thomas Fosu Jr. writes for the Guide that the General Secretary of the ruling New Patriotic Party, John Bodu, has directed that all party supporters who in recent times has misconducted themselves by publicly invoking curses on party officials using deities or gods should be suspended immediately by their respective constituency executives.
Now, there's an interesting story. I'm taking you back to page 3. One of your favorite ministers, Samuel Atachia. Minister proposes submerged drainage system to minimize flooding. And mind you, this is the 4th year of his tenure. So, just to put this in context, Samuel Atachia, Western Housing Minister, has proposed the adoption of a submerged drainage system to help deal with the indiscriminate dumping of refuse into open drains to minimize flooding. He said, though the submerged drainage system was capital intensive, It had been adopted by most advanced countries, and Ghana needs to do same. He said this. It was time for a re-engineering of the country's drainage system to ensure that the modified one to be adopted was the best to do environmental challenges. He was speaking in an interview with the media after he joined the people of New Job in North and South to desilt gutters and clean the environment. The exercise was done under the auspices of the Ministry of Works and Housing. This is in the Inquisitor.
Okay, so when COVID happened, he took the stage at the minister's press briefing, right?
And what did he say?
And he mentioned things that his administration has done to help curb flooding. Maybe we should cut some and play and see whether those things being done are really enough.
I think you can find it. Now, let me give you a couple of political stories. Increasing bust margin by 100% amidst COVID-19 is insensitive. Sami Jemfi and National Communications Officer of NDC has accused the president of being insensitive to Ghanaians by increasing the bust margin, a tax component on petroleum products, by 100%. Addressing the press on Monday, Sami Jemfi said that the latest action of the president at a time the nation is grappling with the coronavirus pandemic and its attendant economic effects is a monumental betrayal of the trust Ghanaians placed in him. Now, they had also made some allegations about bust, which Nana Damoa of the Energy Ministry is responding to. So that story is also on the same website. Energy Ministry has hit back at the opposition NDC over some claims it made against the Akufo-Addo government and the bulk oil storage and transportation company bust. Now, while launching their corruption tracker series in Accra on Monday, the NDC accused the government of creating an enabling environment for corruption to thrive in its government. Now, the National Communications Officer of the NDC accused bust, and he zoomed in, as the story puts it, on the bust scandal which occurred in 2017. But Mr. Nana Damoa, in a response, says the issues raised by the NDC are not factually accurate. You can read the back and forth on our website to get your own conclusion.
Some other stories. Third window of Presidential Business Support Program outdoors aims to train 26,000 startups. This story is on the front page of the BNFT by Lily Pearl Baba Otu. And the story says 26,000 entrepreneurs are expected to be trained under the third window of the Presidential Business Support Program, according to the Ministry of Business Development. In collaboration with the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Plan, the Minister, Dr. Ibrahim Awal, announced the opening of the window and Window 3 program, saying the NEIP application portals are open to receive applications. Now, you remember the venture capital issue?
Yes.
Venture capital, 42 million loot, court bounces agreement.
Okay.
Now, the story says an Accra High Court has ordered the Attorney General's Department to reformulate the agreement between the department and the former Chief Executive Officer of Venture Capital Trust Fund, Daniel Duku, in the Eswa Mahama-led administration. The court, presided over by Justice Antonio Pong, a Court of Appeal judge sitting in as a High Court judge, said yesterday that the AG should include the accused person admitting guilt and also why they are giving up their constitutional right to trial. And according to the court, the current agreement between the two sides is unclear, as it does not also specify the principal sum the accused person stole and misappropriated.
Let me give you two final stories. Order Ghana Water Company to stop billing us. Hotels beg for free water. CitiBusinessNews.com. The Ghana Hotels Association has asked the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture to expedite discussions to get the Ghana Water Company to stop charging its members for water they consume for the month of April, May and June. The hoteliers say the continuous imposition of the tariffs is draining the meager revenue they are getting at a time business is slow and at the time government has offered free water for consumers for at least 3 months. Then there's another one. Citi Business Forum, second virtual forum on e-commerce comes off today. Story on citibusinessnews.com. It says week 2 of Citi TV and Citi FM's business festival come off this week with the e-commerce virtual forum scheduled for today. The forum, which is under the theme exploring new ways of engaging customers, will look at areas of e-commerce, understanding audiences, engagement, and making business e-commerce compliant. All right, so that's all we have time for today's edition of Newspaper Review. Stay safe and